Now let us try to focus on printing the array. But before that, let us try to understand what is the advantage of this declaration. Well, as you can see, this is a little bit complicated way compared to a normal variable declaration, right? But why should we follow this complicated way? What is the requirement? What is the motivation behind it? So this type of declaration, or this the populating the array either this way or this way, I mean storing inside an index, it gives tremendous advantage in terms of developing some logic in the program. What does that mean is, you can easily use some kind of advanced logic, like let's say looping or some other logic on top of these index. Let us try to clarify it with a simple example. Let us say, instead of this array 1, I am going to store all these data elements in 4 separate variables. So let's say like this is v1 will store, let's say variable v1 will store 5, then variable v2 will store 9, then a variable v3 will store 22, and finally v4 will store 6 in here. Now let me ask you the question, how are you going to print all the variables, I mean values stored inside all the variables? You do not have any other option but to use the system.out.print statement 4 different times. That is, in order to print the variable v1, you have to use a separate system.out.print v1. Similarly, for to print this v2, you have to use another system.out.print statement followed by v2. Similarly, for v3 also, you have to use another system.out.print v3. So v3 like this, and similarly system dot out dot print v4. So to print the values of 4 different variables, you basically need to use system.out.print statement 4 different times. Now, well, when the number of data items are 4, it may not look like a very cumbersome job. But what if you have 100 different variables? Or let's say in a real world software development, let's say where you need to work with 10,000 different customers or 10,000 different employees, or let's say 100,000 different students name across some organization, and you want to print all of their name. How are you going to do that? Are you going to use system.out.print statement 10,000 or 100,000 different times? Does it sound very feasible? Well, of course not. It is not the best practice to do that. In order to do that, you must take the advantage of the loop. But if you just use a variable name, single variable name like this, you cannot take the advantage of looping, and you have to use this name system.out.print statement differently. So that's where the advantage of array is. Now, in order to print the array, now let us focus on the syntax. How can we print the array using a loop? So in order to do that, first you have to take a counter for the loop, and in this case let the counter be an index, and we will start it from 0. Why 0? Because 0 is basically the starting index of the array. And then we can use a while loop, and inside this while loop I can tell the compiler like, well, index will iterate until its value is 3, because you can see the like array started from 0 and it ended at 3. So less than equals less than means it should be 3. And well, you really do not need to use int in this case. Anyway, so here you are specifying that index will iterate until the value of index is 3. So it will iterate, start from 0 and it will go until 3, like that. And then in every iteration you are simply incrementing the value of index, and also at the same time you are basically printing the value stored inside that index, like this array1 followed by this index. So what it is doing, it is basically saying that, well, in the first iteration when the value of index is 0, it is printing the value of array 0, that is 5. Then in the next iteration, when the index value is incremented to 1, it is going to print the value of array 1, which is going to be 9 over here. Then the next iteration, the value of index is incremented to 2, so it will basically print array 2, which is nothing other than 22. And in the final iteration, what it will do, it will increment the value of index from 2 to 3, and that's why in the final iteration it will print the value of array 3, which is 6 in our case. So this is how you can print the array using a simple loop, avoiding multiple system.out.print element. Now in the next video we are going to clarify this example with a simple demo Java program.